So this is the ram's head device, and this is what you get, or at least historically, if you are a graduate of the Basic Military Mountaineering Course in Vermont, all right? But you're only allowed to wear it, historically, if you are a member of the Vermont National Guard. Now today, as of making this video, there was a new badge that was approved by the Army for wear of anybody that's in the Army, any soldier that goes through that course, and it looks like this. Pretty cool, right? Now this is actually a bootleg copy. They haven't actually started selling these in the shop bets or clothing and sales or anything like that yet, but I think that you'll actually be able to start seeing these because they have been approved for sale within the next 60 to 90 days as of me making this video, which is the 2nd of May. And if you're enlisted, you also get a skill identifier, ECHO, which means you are a qualified military mountaineer, and you only have to go through the one and only course, the Basic Military Mountaineering Course. There is no separate summer or winter versions anymore. It's just one course, and it just happens during the winter or during the summer. But before I get too ahead of myself, what's up guys? Hope everybody's out there staying high speed and motivated and accomplishing their goals, whatever they may be. I know it's taken me way too long to make this video and you've been waiting for me to make this video, so I have no good excuse for you. Life just gets really hectic and busy sometimes, but I'm not gonna waste any more time. We're gonna get into it now. I'm gonna do my very best to tell you everything you need to know about the Basic Military Mountaineering Course at Army Mountain Warfare School, Ethan Allan Firing Range in Vermont. And we're going to break it down like this. First, I want to talk to you a little bit about the administrative things that you might be worried about, especially when it comes to equipment and the packing list. Then we're going to talk about the physical side of things, how you should be training up and what you can expect when you're actually at the course. Then we'll talk a little bit about the specific testing requirements of the course. These are the things that are going to either allow you to continue on with training or send you home if you don't do such a good job. And then we'll wrap it all up with my overall thoughts on the course and who I think this course would be good for. So real quick, what's the purpose of the Basic Military Mountain Course? The purpose of the Basic Military Mountaineering Course is to train soldiers in the skills required to conduct mountain combat operations during any climatic conditions and to award the SQI ECHO upon graduation. The following are general subject areas taught during this course of instruction: mountain navigation skills, individual mountain skills, small unit mountain skills, and mountain medical skills and summer-specific practical exercises. Now I got that straight off of the Fort Benning website so you can see it for yourself, and as you can see there are other mountaineering courses that if you are able to pass the Basic Military Mountaineering Course, BMMC, you are then eligible to attend those courses at the Army Mountaineering Warfare School and get even more advanced training when it comes to military mountaineering. You can see right here on the Fort Benning website, there's also course schedules that go all the way out to 2026. So definitely check those out if you're interested in going to the school. This is where you can get some course dates, or you can just go on to ATARS. Now there's a lot more information on the Fort Benning website about the course. I definitely encourage you to check that out. I'll actually leave a link in the description for you so that you can go there and do your research. This is one of those courses that you definitely want to read up on things as much as you can before you show up, because once you get there to the course, you're on lockdown. You're not going anywhere. You stay in barracks and there is no store nearby or anything like that. In fact, the only thing that you'll have access to spend your money on, if you're not spending your money on Amazon or something like that, is a vending machine that has different, snacks, energy drinks and stuff like that. But there's nothing else out there in the proximity of where you'll be staying that you'll be able to purchase last minute materials from. Now, getting into the packing list, you'll actually get sent to you once you have a confirmed slot about 30 days prior to the start of the course, the packing list for the course. Now, it is going to be a seasonal type of packing list. It will be different on whether you're going during the winter or if you're going during the summer. And some of the list items, not everybody in the Army is going to have issued to them. Not every CIF across the force issues the same type of materials, especially when it comes to winter type of stuff, right? So, for example, the marshmallow suit is not something that everybody is going to get when they go through CIF. Not every post gets that cold, so they're just not going to issue it to you. But it is something that is required to have when you go to the winter version of BMMC. The packing list that they send to you will say bring everything on this list that you have issued to you. If you do not have, or if you're missing one of these items, there is a facility at BMMC that will issue it to you. And that is true, okay? So you don't need to go out there and somehow acquire the gear or buy the gear if you're missing it. If it is something you can draw from CIF at home, I think it's a good idea to do that, so you just have it and you don't have to worry about it when you get to the course. But don't stress too hard on the packing list side of things, because if there is something that you just don't have in your inventory already, the schoolhouse will make sure that you have it once you get there. Along with that, the schoolhouse is going to issue you a ton of military mountaineering equipment, probably more equipment than you're going to actually bring in your own bags. You're going to get a lot of stuff. Things like an axe, snowshoes, winter boots, avalanche, probing kit, a whole bunch of stuff. You're just going to be a little bit overwhelmed day one with the amount of gear they give you, but you are going to use pretty much all of it. Now, I mentioned boots. That obviously is like a big concern if you're going to a school that is involving a lot of rucking through the woods, right? Now, if you're going to the winter version of the course, they're going to issue you the boots that you're going to use when you go out and do your training for the day. All right, so you don't have to like purchase specific winter or cold weather boots. What I would advise is that you just bring your normal boots that you wear day to day during work, because once you're back from going out and doing your training, you'll take off those hard plastic winter boots that they'll issue to you, and you'll just put on regular Army boots that you just wear on a day-to-day for classrooms and going to chow and stuff like that. So if you're going to the winter, don't stress the boots too much. Just wear whatever you would normally wear, because you're just going to wear it inside most of the time anyway. If you're going to the summer, obviously that's a whole different story. You want to wear boots that are going to be rugged, but also something that you know is going to be very comfortable to you, something that you have a lot of experience and time under load with, and that you've rucked before with in the past. And do not bring brand new boots, because you are going to be on your feet a lot out there. You're going to be burning a lot of calories, and yeah, you definitely want to have nice, comfortable, broken-in boots. Now, I talked about burning a lot of calories. They have a chow hall there that's a pretty good chow hall, and they give you a lot of food. A lot of times during lunch, you'll just eat an MRE, or you'll have some sort of bag lunch. But when you sit down and have your meals, breakfast, dinner, stuff like that, for the majority of days, they give you plenty of food. But again, you're going to be out there so much, walking around so much under load, you're doing a lot of physical activity. And especially if you're going in the winter, you're going to be burning a lot more calories than you probably do in your normal day life. So you don't worry about your diet while you're there, okay? You just want to be taking in as many calories as you can. And I would advise bringing some sort of easy to grab snacks that you can just stick in your pocket when you're out there in the field doing training. Something like goos or gels or something like that to just give you a little extra calorie boost, especially if you're a bigger person, or somebody who has a lot of muscle or something like that. You want to make sure that you have something like that with you, just to give you that little boost of energy while you're out there training, and so that you don't get too tired out there. You can take the training as seriously as you possibly can. And they are totally okay, at least as of today, with you doing that. So I would definitely bring something like that with you if you can. Now, the packing list is also going to tell you that you can bring your own acquired gear that isn't issued to you by the military, but it is definitely going to be inspected, and if they don't think that it's up to par, or if it doesn't meet the requirements of what it's actually going to be used for, or if it's just not good for safety or something like that, then they're going to expect you to be able to use to back up the issued gear. So don't just bring all this high-speed, extra cool stuff if you think it's just not going to pass an inspection like that. But it doesn't hurt to bring it, and it says that you can bring it on the packing list, and it's definitely something that if you have, like, for example, a rucksack that's more comfortable for you to wear and you think it's going to pass something like that, then I would say definitely bring it, because again, you're going to be out there rucking all the time, like pretty much every day for long days. So comfort is a big consideration before going to this school. Now, for the physical side of things, I've already mentioned a couple times now that you're going to be rucking a lot. Now, that's the number one thing that you need to be concerned with when you go to this school. Your rucking has to be on point. I wouldn't compare it to the amount of rucking you do in like ranger school or something like that, but I would also say that it is not far off, okay? This is still a very challenging, a physically challenging course, without a doubt. Not only do you need to be able to ruck, but your body should already be accustomed to rucking. And what I mean by that is your feet should already be toughened up, your back should already be toughened up, because like I said, it's going to be every day you're going to have this big 40 to 50, maybe even more pound rucksack on your back, and that gets very draining every day. Now you'll go back to the barracks pretty much every day except for one night to get your rest on and be able to deload and all that stuff, but it doesn't matter if you get that little bit of a break. Your body is still going to be compounding all that physical activity, and you're going to feel it by the time you're done with the course. I promise you that. So what I would advise to prep up for a course like this, if you're not already in like top rucking shape, then you should get out there and throw a good 35 to 40 pound rucksack on your back, aiming for about 6 miles at a speed of no higher than 15 minutes per mile. You don't have to go out there and run ruck all the time. In fact, I don't think that would do you too much good for a course like this, but you definitely need to get accustomed to rucking around in the woods at a 15-minute pace with that much weight on your back. There are going to be, I guess, quote unquote, gates when it comes to movement. They'll set a specific standard that you must adhere to, and if you don't manage to keep to that standard, you will either lose overall points from your overall course score, or you will get dropped from the course. That all just depends on the severity of how far you fell back or the specific event that you are conducting when it comes to falling out of a ruck march. I'm not going to give too much G2 away because I'm not trying to ruin it for the course and I wouldn't want to piss those guys off, right? But what I will say is definitely be ready to ruck before you show up, because if you don't, you're probably not going to make it through the course. There's also the elevation aspect of things. You're not going to go to a place where you're going to be in such a higher elevation than you're probably accustomed to. In fact, probably some of you are going to be coming from places where the elevation is actually higher than where you're going in Vermont. But that doesn't take away from moving at steep inclines for long durations of time and just navigating through mountainous terrain. That can be extremely energy draining. So if you can, get out there and practice incline training as well. And if there is just no inclines, there's no hills around where you live, then I would do some time on a Stairmaster just to do whatever you can to try to get used and build up those muscles to help you to get used to dealing with mountainous and elevation type of terrain. Now, for the testing part of things, what are the tests that you can expect that you have to pass in order to move on with the course? The first one's obvious, and it's probably the one that everybody has already been made aware of, and that is the knots test. First things first with the knots test, they are very strict with the knots. If you don't do the knots right, you're going to get a no-go. I can tell you that. There's over a dozen knots that you'll need to know how to tie, and you'll also need to know the purpose behind the knot. And you'll have to be able to tie the knot and recite the purpose of the knot in a specific amount of time, which is not very long. So you really do have to be on your game when it comes to these knots. You got to take them seriously or they're just going to send you home. I would advise that before you go to the course, you get a hold of a little bit of rope or some string or something, anything you can, to practice these knots. And they've made a video on YouTube from the schoolhouse themselves that go through each of the knots. They go through the purpose of the knots. That's a good resource for visuals on how the knots should be tied, what they should look like when you're done, and they also give you the purposes so you can start getting into the habit of reciting the purposes as you're tying the knots before you even show up to the school. I will say that you get a few days after day one showing up to the school to practice your knots and get ready for the actual knots exam. But those time periods are going to be after your training, and they're going to be during your free time, which is in the evening time. So while it could be enough time to spin you up and get you ready for the actual knots exam, I wouldn't depend on that to make sure that you're ready for the knots test. Now, there's also going to be a bunch of systems tests. You're going to learn how to set up a rappel, you're going to learn how to set up a rope bridge, and a bunch more. And once you learn that and you're given a few days to practice it, there will come a time where you'll actually have to test against it. And there is a grading criteria for that, but it's still very strict, and there are plenty of ways where you can mess one tiny thing up on the exam itself, and it can still result in a complete no-go for the exam. So again, with those systems, there's something you got to take seriously, and they will be something you take seriously pretty much every evening of the course is dedicated to practicing knots and practicing your systems. You know, if you can't tell already, it's a very hands-on course. But again, you want to take all those testings very seriously, because the last thing you want to do is get sent home like a week into the course because you just messed up a knot or you weren't paying attention when you were practicing your systems or something like that. So just make sure you're really dialed in on those testing standards. They will provide them to you, and when you're testing them, make sure you're not giving yourself any leeway. Everything has to be just right. You may or may not have heard of the land nav course that's out there. There's definitely a day that's dedicated to land navigation, and it's done by yourself. You have no assistance whatsoever. So you definitely want to brush up on your land nav skills. There will be a review before you actually go out there and do it for real, for testing, but it's a lot different of a land nav course than you might be used to if you're not somebody from a mountain unit. Doing land nav in a mountainous type of terrain is significantly different than in flat terrain, mainly because it's a lot harder to dead reckon. You really have to be able to terrain associate, and your pace count's going to be off. There's a lot of different things that come into play when you're land navving through mountainous terrain. So brush up on your land nav. Make sure you at least have the basics familiarized before you show up. Again, they will do a review with you, and it's not something that you need to very much worry about. Just, make sure you brush up. And you'll also take a written exam at the end of the course. Now, they'll issue you your Basic Military Mountaineer Course handout book. Looks like this. It's pretty thick. And basically all the classes that you'll go through during your time there are in this book. They're directly from this book. So on your free time, with as little as there will be, you have this as a reference to go through your notes. Definitely take notes while you're going through your classes. You can see I did that there. And use this as your study guide before that written exam. I think it would be a good idea to study this a good 15 or 20 minutes right before going to sleep. Maybe some of the topics or subjects that you're not completely familiar with, just crack this open, read it a little bit, and prep yourself for the written exam in that way. You should be just fine. Now, this course, guys, is one of the best courses I believe that you can go to that the Army offers. It's not just for the sake of saying you're a military mountaineer or to get yourself a really sweet badge, right? I'll tell you right now, the knots and the techniques that they teach you in the course are things, these are skills that could definitely pop up for use in your military career and also just in your general life. I just saved my cat out of my backyard tree, this really tall tree, just a couple days ago using a field expedient harness, a couple bowlines and a rope so I could get up the tree safely and make sure I was tied in the tree as I ascended. And that gave me the confidence to get up there in that tree and retrieve my cat, or my wife's cat, I would say. And that just made me the hero for the day. And I completely would attribute that to the skills that you would learn at Mount Warfare. The course itself is an extremely professional run course. The cadre out there have all been specially trained and specially selected to even serve out there. They all want to be out there doing what they're doing. They're some of the most professional instructors and soldiers that the Army has to offer, in my opinion. And they're very good at their jobs. Again, they love what they do. The mountaineering aspect of things, most of them just do that as a hobby on the side of being an instructor anyway. So they're just loaded with a plethora of mountaineering knowledge as it is, and they're more than happy to share that knowledge with you guys while you're there. So it turns into this not only go or no-go type of course and training setup into more of like a mentorship style of teaching, where you just leave that course learning way more than you thought you would going in. I've heard it like a million times that the military mountaineering course is one of the best courses in the Army, and I would say that is absolutely true. I think this course is, without a doubt, 100% necessary. I almost think it should be required for combat MOSs, especially the infantry that are serving in mountain units. Without a doubt, this is like something you need to go do. And then next in the priority lane of that would be any combat MOS in general would absolutely still gain some excellent knowledge that's going to help them with their job from going to this school. And although I think those are like the priorities for the course, I think every single soldier out there would benefit from the training and the experience that this course has to offer, like without a doubt. Obviously, the training is very geared towards and pinpointed on the mountaineering side of things, but they also integrate a lot of basic soldier skills like, first aid, navigation, patrolling. A lot of those things come into play just in a military mountaineering style, right? So it's just the environment that you're working through, but all those other basic core skills and tasks that a soldier should be good at are also being honed in on and tested during this course. And so I think no matter where you're coming from through the Army, you will absolutely find something useful. So long story short, if you're infantry, you definitely need to go. If you're anything else, definitely look into it and try to go, because it's still going to be a great experience for you. And I don't know about you guys, but I think the slots for that school are going to be filling up even faster than usual, and I think it's because of this bad boy right here. There is now an even greater incentive to go and pass that school, and that is so that you can get some extra chest candy. I really do think that this design is pretty cool. I know, it's not the old Ram's Head device, and I know there's a lot of tradition tied to this, and, I'm sure the Vermont National Guard, especially the ones at the mountain school, are probably a little, I don't know if upset is the right word, but a little deterred on the change of the design of the badge. And I don't know why there had to be a change, but at least it's still a ram's head. And honestly, at least it looks pretty cool. But that's it, guys. That is my roll-up of the Basic Military Mountaineering Course. If you have any other questions, maybe there's something I missed or didn't think about, please just drop that in the comments. I will make my best effort to read every comment and get back to you. And if you're somebody who's been to the course yourself and you just happen to be here watching this and you have some other insights to provide to everybody, please, by all means, drop that in the comments as well, because the more information we have here, the better. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you found this information useful. Here's some other videos that I'm sure will be useful to you in some way, so make sure you go give those a watch as well. Besides that, I've got nothing else for you, and I will see you on the next one.